Gandhi once said, your beliefs become your thoughts. Your thoughts become your words. Your words become your actions. Your actions become your habits. Your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny. I want you all to just sit back, relax, and imagine that you all are a CEO of a billion-dollar corporation. Your former chief financial officer, who was the genius behind your company and created a billion-dollar profit, has moved to Timbuktu. You need to find another, and if at all better, chief financial officer to handle your money in just 2 short weeks. You only have 14 days. But who? Now you have 2 choices. You have Amanda. She, according to her former employer, was always on time. She never called in sick, and she's very, very skilled at handling money, which is probably the most important quality. Or you have Nick, who, according to his former employer, is repetitively late, constantly calls in sick at least once a week, and he makes impulsive financial decisions. Who would you choose? Who would choose Amanda? Who would choose Nick? That's not that hard, right? It's common sense to pick the person with good habits, right? Anyone would choose the person with good habits of time management, health, and good money management. Just like a person with bad habits is a liability to a corporation, you decrease the full value of yourself when you continue with bad habits. Some people think that one good habit doesn't change much in your life. But if you think about it, success is based on your daily routine. Your daily routine is what creates that momentum and creates success. So why not focus on your habits and how to change them? Just like a butterfly, the successful person we aspire to become is not a transformation to a brand new creature. It is just an enhancement of the inner beauty that we already have. When you create good habits, really, you are simply bringing out that inner beauty within. It's not a complete change. But we don't need to change who we are completely to reach our goals. We just need to improve the perception of who we are as a person. We need to improve how we see ourselves, our self-image. The first step to improving that is, remember we talked about self-awareness in the last presentation. So you have to be able to recognize and embrace your strengths and at the same time admit your weaknesses so that you can improve them. But what we don't know about habits can hurt us. This is why I want you to know that it is a scientific fact that actions, when repeated on a regular basis, so for example, you smoke a cigarette every day, or you eat fast food at 4 o'clock every day, these can become hardwired habits. That's why they're so hard to break, because when you continue consistently with an action that gives you a good feeling, it's going to be hard to stop doing that, because it's ingrained in our subconscious at this point when you become addicted to it. Neurologists have found that any action, whether it's healthy or unhealthy, that you repeat on a regular basis, it will become a necessity to your brain, as in your brain needs it to remain stable. So that's why when you continue with smoking those cigarettes, getting that nicotine, or getting that beer at the end of the day, watching a game, it becomes a necessity because it makes you feel good. Anything that provides stability and regulates our emotions, it's going to become an addiction. And your brain prioritizes according to what's beneficial at the moment. Your brain doesn't care what your goals are. Your brain doesn't care what you want for yourself. Your brain doesn't care about your future. All your brain cares about is instant gratification. That's why it's so important to pay attention to all your habits. Maybe you're oblivious to some of the habits you have. Maybe you don't understand why you can't reach a certain goal. Or you could be mindful of most of your habits and you want to figure out how you can break them. That's the thing. Habits are not a piece of glass that you drop on the floor and it breaks into 1,000,000 pieces. It is a form of energy. Now, who here has ever heard of this? Anybody ever heard of this? Can anybody tell me what the first law of thermodynamics states? What does it say? It's a very famous phrase. It's literally can sum it up in one sentence. What does it state?
Something like action produces reaction.
Similar. Anybody? You're very close though. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. It can only be transferred. Yes, exactly. Habits are a form of energy. You can't stop it. You can't break it. You have to replace that energy with a different action. And basically, habits can be hard to change because a lot of people try to stop cold turkey. You can't stop. You have to replace it. You have to find something to give you that same feeling as an old habit. But why are habits so hard to change? Why can't we just stop what we're doing and just begin a new habit that creates success for us? We know we want it, and we have the will to do it. It's so difficult. There are two reasons why. The first reason is due to another law of physics called anyone ever heard of this law? The Zeno effect. According to the Zeno effect, the expectations and experiences you focus on the most become priorities to your brain. Expectations and experiences that you focus on the most become priorities to your brain. This is where placebos come in. Now, in this particular placebo experiment, it was proven that expectations alone can make the difference between passing and failing a test. Now, this experiment included 40 undergraduates, and they took a 20-question general knowledge test. It was divided 20 students versus 20 students. So one group of students were told, okay, there is going to be an answer that flashes momentarily onto the screen, and it's going to be so quick that you're not going to consciously see the answer, but your subconscious mind will register that answer. It wasn't true. It never happened. And they were actually given a demonstration that made it register in their head like this is really happening, even though it didn't. Again, that's why it's called a placebo. So they were told these answers will flash on the screen, and they really expected those answers to be shown to them, so they believed they had the correct answer. The other group was just told, just take the test, answer the correct question out of 4. And the students who were told that they would see the correct answer scored significantly higher than the students who were told nothing. So what does this prove? What does the Zeno effect and the placebo experiment have to do with habits? That you get no more than what you expect. Expectations equals your reality. So confidence and faith are two partners that you need to fight a bad habit. The outcome of most situations depends on your state of mind and your perception you focus on, because you only hit what you aim at. If you don't aim at anything, you don't get anything. And yes, this is empowering, but it's a lot easier said than done. Because our brains are like a human eye looking through a telescope with a distorted lens called the confirmation bias. So the confirmation bias is basically, it's saying, well, I want to keep continuing with this action. I'm going to ignore all evidence that refutes my beliefs. So basically, when you want to continue with a bad habit, you look at the benefits and you don't look at the costs, or you justify the costs. This is because being right provides a feeling of stability and security, and being wrong makes us feel insecure and fearful. So how many of you have ever justified a habit that you had? I know I have. I've justified several habits that I've had, like, whatever. I can keep doing that because, well, I'm healthy, I'm young, I'm stressed out, I deserve to be able to do this. But really, I knew it was bad for me and I had to replace that habit, but I kept justifying why I did it instead of stopping it. And also, another example is, some of you may be able to relate, but I can be a little bit of a hypochondriac. So if I hear of an outbreak of a certain disease or food being recalled that I ate 2 weeks ago, I imagine myself having a bunch of those symptoms. Even though I'm walking straight, I can eat food all day, I can exercise for hours, I can sleep well. All I think about is, oh my God, I just coughed, or oh my God, I just sneezed, I might have it. I ignore all the evidence saying that I'm healthy and zero in on the evidence that I'm sick. But what is the confirmation bias and me being a little bit of a hypochondriac? What does that have to do with habits? Well, again, sometimes we justify why we did or didn't do something regardless of the evidence. When we are provided evidence that makes us feel uneasy, we ignore it or we justify it. And when the confirmation bias is in control of our perception, we look for reasons to continue with the actions that give us a euphoric feeling. Our brain does not have the ability to discern whether the action is good or bad for us in the long run. All it can discern is if it feels good or bad for our emotions and instant gratification. But the Zeno effect and confirmation bias, they aren't bad guys that you have to destroy and conquer. They can be your allies if you allow them to be. Since you can't change the laws of your brain, you have to work with them. And this is why I'm telling you this information. Join forces with them because at the end of the day, you don't have a choice. Whether you believe in gravity or not, whether you want to believe that it can be on your side or against you, regardless of how you feel about it, it's there. Okay, so you can say, well, I don't believe in gravity, I don't care about gravity, I'm gonna jump off this building. Well, you're gonna die because gravity is gonna be there regardless. Make it your friend and not your enemy, and that's the same thing. Does anybody have any questions so far about anything? No? Okay. Now, the Zeno effect and confirmation bias, they aren't the only allies you have to replace bad habits. You also have the 3-step habit loop. Has anyone ever heard of Charles Duhigg and his book, The Power of Habit? Anyone? Okay, I'm going to write that down for you as well. So again, there's a 3-step habit loop that Charles Duhigg created. And he did extensive research on businesses and successful business people. And he realized there was always a 3-step habit loop and 4 steps you can take to conquer a bad habit and replace it that works with the laws of your brain. And it's been proven that it actually works. Okay, so I'm going to write his book up top here as well. Okay. Now, the first thing that happens when you are about to engage in a certain habit is a cue. So a cue could be a craving, a sight, a smell, a person, anything that has to do with your senses. So cue would be the first thing. So this could be, again, a sight, a smell, person, again, anything that has to do with your senses. And the second step, according to Charles Duhigg, would be a routine. So you carry out a routine to satisfy your urge. So that routine could be, for example, you go through the drive-thru at McDonald's and get that double cheeseburger. That's your routine when you get that cue. Then the third step is a reward. So that reward could be, after you have that burger, I feel satisfied. I feel good. I feel full. But the problem with that burger is that you're gaining weight from it and you're trying to do the opposite. You're trying to lose weight. So why is it that even though you want to lose weight and you want to reach your weight goal, you keep going for that cheeseburger? That is because your brain has gotten into a routine that provides that reward. So with the 3-step habit loop, this is important because the main thing is that the cue, your stomach growling, for example, and the reward, feeling satisfied, can remain exactly the same. Only thing you need to change is that routine to continue to get that same reward, except the routine is a lot healthier this time. So there are 4 steps that you can take in order to change that habit. That works, again, with the laws of your brain. Again, the cue and the reward can remain exactly the same, just the routine has to change. So what's the first step to doing this? So first step is to identify the routine. At this point, you're just a guinea pig. You're being your own experimenter and you're being the patient. So basically, you're looking at everything objectively, but you're not trying to change your habit at this point. You're just trying to figure out what is the routine that I need to change. And some of you might think, okay, well, why would I need to look at the routine I'm doing? I know what I'm doing. Sometimes we don't know what time we're doing it. We don't know the cue that drives us to do the routine. And we don't really realize that we have been doing it like clockwork because we're so used to just doing it without doing it mindfully. So basically, you're figuring out your routine and you're being more mindful of it this time. So again, you're not trying to change anything. You're just looking at yourself and your habits. Second step is experiment with rewards. Sometimes when we engage in a habit, we don't realize that just because we do it doesn't mean that's what we want. Just because you go for that burger, it doesn't mean you're hungry. It means that you're trying to get a certain reward. So for example, I'm going to give you an example that I actually have of from my own personal experience. So I was working at a telemarketing company in college. I hated the job. It was boring. I was repeating the same thing, selling a bunch of crap to people who didn't want it. And I would go outside, and mind you, I'm not a smoker. I've never bought a pack of cigarettes in my life. A lot of people who worked there did smoke, and on their break they would smoke. And I was so tempted that I ended up smoking cigarettes. And eventually it became an everyday at work thing. So I would go outside, take a break, and smoke a cigarette. And the cigarette wasn't what I wanted. I wanted some relief from work. And before I even realized this 4-step process, I was actually doing it, which is weird. But I told myself, I don't want